That summer, there was something we had lost, but no one ever spoke about it. No one wanted to remember. Yet deep in their hearts, it was a pain that never truly went away. In a small town, there was once a group of close friends. They were always together, supporting one another. But then, a tragic accident took away that girl's smile, and with it, the bond they once shared fell apart. 5 years later, that girl suddenly came back. She didn't return to blame anyone or seek revenge. She came to bring back smiles. She came to reunite her friends. And this anime is a reminder to us all. Some apologies need to be said. Some dreams deserve to be fulfilled. And some memories must never be forgotten. This isn't just a story about loss, it's a journey of healing. A late blooming flower in the middle of summer. A story that reminds us of friendship, of childhood, and of feelings we thought had long fallen asleep in our hearts. So, please join Oni on this emotional journey until the very end. Thank you all for listening. Now, let's watch together with Oni at this moment. A teenage boy is playing a video game. His name is Yadami Jinta. And the white-haired girl sitting beside him, her name is Hanma Mako. But she's also known as Menma. She was a childhood friend of Jinta. But Jinta doesn't want to pay attention to her. Suddenly, he gets up. Jinta heads to the kitchen to cook some noodles. After finishing the meal, he unexpectedly runs into his father outside. So the two of them sit down and eat the noodles together. But Jinta only made enough for the two of them. He didn't cook any for her. This made Menma feel a bit upset. So she immediately runs over to Jinta. He thinks she's about to do something strange. Suddenly, Menma sits on Jinta's lap, which leaves him completely flustered. But since Jinta is extremely shy around girls, he faints on the spot. When he wakes up, his father has already left for work. Meanwhile, Menma is still lying on top of him. Jinta starts to question whether he's hallucinating, because Menma had already passed away long ago. So Jinta asks her why she has appeared here now. Menma replies, "I want to fulfill a wish." But even she doesn't clearly remember what that wish is. Suddenly, the doorbell rings. They rush out to open the door. Unexpectedly, a girl walks in. Her name is Anju Naruko, nicknamed Anaru. She's also one of their old friends. However, Anaru can't see Menma at all, even though Menma is standing right in front of her. Anaru came to deliver Jinta's summer homework. But Jinta shows no interest in it. He says, "I don't want to go to school anymore." This causes a disagreement between them. Anaru gets angry. She stands up and storms off. After that, Menma asks Jinta, "Why don't you ask Anaru to help with the wish?" Jinta thinks that's a good idea. But they barely talk these days. The distance between them feels greater than before. From that day on, things become even more tense between the two of them. Jinta and Anaru are no longer close like they once were. But Jinta starts talking badly about Anaru. That makes Menma upset, so she raises her voice. Menma doesn't want Jinta to speak badly about Anaru anymore. Later on, Menma asks Jinta to help fulfill her wish. And Jinta agrees. The two of them head to school together. They chat and laugh happily along the way. Suddenly, Menma slips, and Jinta instinctively reaches out to catch her. He completely forgets that Menma is supposed to be a ghost. Out of nowhere, two childhood friends appear. Their names are Yukiatsu and Sonoko. They're confused by what Jinta is doing. Seeing them, Jinta quickly walks away. But Menma feels the opposite. She's excited to see them again. Meanwhile, the others notice Jinta acting strangely. He keeps mentioning Menma, which leads Yukiatsu to think that something is wrong with Jinta's mind. Hearing that, Jinta immediately runs away. He never wanted to see them in the first place. Jinta says that everyone has changed. Then he bluntly says, "I don't like Menma." He even says hurtful things to her. Menma is deeply saddened, and Jinta walks away. He returns home. There, Jinta remembers the summer from long ago. Back then, they were all close friends. Jinta was always the center of their childhood games. Suddenly, Anaru asked Jinta, "Do you like Menma?" Everyone in the group was curious about his answer. But because Jinta was too shy, he replied, "I don't like Menma at all. She's really ugly." Jinta thought Menma would cry. But unexpectedly, Menma just smiled gently. That made Jinta feel ashamed of what he had said. So he walked away. As for Menma, she quietly returned to her old home. Menma was happy to see her family again. But everything had changed. Her younger brother had grown a lot. Her father looked much older. And her mother had become quieter than before. At that moment, her mother was sitting in front of Menma's memorial. Her eyes were filled with sorrow. Menma stood there, watching silently. Meanwhile, Jinta regretted the words he had said to Menma. He ran out of the house to look for her. Jinta rushed up the hill, and he headed straight to the old secret base they used to play in as kids. At that moment, as Jinta stepped inside, he saw that the place had become messy and cluttered. Just then, someone appeared. It was a guy nicknamed Papo, whose real name is Tetsudo Hisakawa. He was also a member of their childhood group. Jinta told him the entire story about seeing Menma. Surprisingly, Papo believed him right away. Unlike the others who doubted him, Papo was cheerful and open-minded as always. Right now, he was temporarily living at their old secret base, after traveling around the world using money he earned himself. Meanwhile, Menma continued to wander quietly by herself. Anaru was sitting with some friends at a fast food restaurant. By chance, she saw Surumi Chiriko, nicknamed Suruko, or Sonoko, the final member of their old group. Anaru quickly ran after her. She wanted to return something Sonoko had just dropped. However, their conversation didn't go very well. Sonoko was now attending a prestigious school, while Anaru went to one of the lowest-ranked schools in the area. Tension started to build between them. They began to argue. Just then, Menma rushed over. She tried to stop them, but Menma couldn't touch them. In the end, Sonoko walked away, leaving Anaru sitting there all alone. Anaru thought to herself, if I hadn't talked to Jinta that day, maybe things wouldn't have ended up like this. Meanwhile, Jinta and Papo were still talking. They were trying to figure out whether Menma was real, or just an illusion. Later, Jinta returned home, but Menma hadn't come back yet. He began to think she might have only been a hallucination he made up. Still, deep down, Jinta felt guilty for how he treated her. Suddenly, Menma opened the door and walked in, but by then, Jinta had already fallen asleep. The next morning, while Yukiatsu was out jogging, he happened to run into Papo. Seeing him, Papo ran over to chat. Papo told him that Menma was currently at Jinta's house. He asked Yukiatsu to help fulfill Menma's wish, but Yukiatsu didn't believe it was true. He still seemed visibly irritated. Back at home, Jinta had just woken up. He saw Menma standing right next to him, wrapped in nothing but a towel. That made Jinta incredibly embarrassed. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, and it was Papo. He came looking for Jinta. Papo wanted to gather everyone together. He wanted them all to fulfill Menma's wish. After that, the three of them stopped by Anaru's house. They invited her to play the games that the group used to play back then. After hearing what Jinta said, Anaru agreed to join them. Menma was overjoyed watching that scene, because Anaru was still just like before. She hadn't changed at all. Everyone kept playing together until nightfall. Jinta thanked Anaru, but she said she wanted Jinta to return the favor. Anaru told Jinta to go back to school, but he stayed silent, even though the game was finished. Menma hadn't disappeared. Jinta realized that wasn't what she truly wished for. But thanks to that, Jinta, Anaru, and Papo got along again. That alone made Menma happy. And so, the group headed home together afterward. At that moment, Papo had returned to the secret base, but he accidentally saw a white figure pass by. It shocked him greatly. The next morning, Menma ran into Jinta's room. She told him to go to school. However, Jinta didn't want to at all, so she reminded him of the promise he made to Anaru. Menma said, "My wish is to see you go back to school." In the end, Jinta agreed. Now Jinta was walking on the way to school, but he felt like something about it just didn't feel right. So he decided to turn around and go back. At that very moment, he accidentally ran into Anaru. She looked a bit surprised. She saw that Jinta had actually agreed to her request. Suddenly, Anaru's group of friends showed up. They began mocking Jinta. They called him a loser who just hides at home. Jinta didn't care about what they said, so he walked away immediately. At home, feeling bored, Menma started exploring Jinta's house. She accidentally found the altar to Jinta's mother. Menma sat down and spoke to the photo of Jinta's mom. Suddenly, she burst into tears. Meanwhile, because he had promised Menma he would go to school, Jinta couldn't bring himself to turn back. He went to Popo's place, and accidentally saw Papo doing something strange. When he saw Jinta, Papo was thrilled and immediately told him about seeing Menma. After hearing that, Jinta felt something very strange. Then Jinta went back home, but he didn't tell Menma that he never went to school. Menma didn't seem to care about that at all. Instead, she happily showed Jinta the pile of snacks she had made. At that moment, Jinta recalled some childhood memories. He remembered walking home with his friends. and everyone got to eat the sweets made by his mother. Back to the present, Menma called him over to eat the snacks. The two of them sat and ate together. But the taste wasn't as good as the ones his mother used to make. Then Jinta asked Menma if she had gone to Popo's place. Menma immediately denied it. Seeing that, Jinta didn't ask anything further. Elsewhere, Yukiatsu and Saruko were out shopping together. Yukiatsu received a message from Popo. He said that he had found Menma. Early the next morning, Popo came to Jinta's house. He wanted to announce the plan to form a group to search for Menma. Seeing that, Menma also wanted to join. She believed it was part of her own wish. In the end, Jinta agreed. On Anaru's side, she also received the announcement from Popo. At that moment, she was deep in thought, because her close friend had invited her to go sing karaoke. But Anaru declined, and she made the excuse that she was busy. By the afternoon, everyone gathered at Popo's place. Sonoko was there too, which surprised both Jinta and Anaru a little. Jinta thought that Yukiatsu wouldn't come, because Yukiatsu didn't believe that Menma still existed. But Sonoko firmly said, Yukiatsu will definitely come. A moment later, everyone started preparing things for the barbecue. Jinta brought some sausages. Sonoko also brought candles, because she thought everyone was preparing to summon Menma's ghost. Anaru brought fireworks, but Sonoko teased her, calling her such a child. The two of them were about to start a verbal fight. Seeing that, Popo stepped in to stop them. A moment later, everyone enjoyed the food together. Sonoko asked about Menma's situation. At that moment, Anaru agreed to believe in it, so she decided to join and help everyone. Suddenly, Yukiatsu appeared. He brought a bunch of food with him, and Yukiatsu said that he had just seen Menma. Hearing that surprised everyone. Popo and Menma excitedly ran off to find Yukiatsu. Seeing that, Yukiatsu said, maybe Jinta isn't the only one who can see Menma. The whole group then ran after Popo. However, Jinta found the whole thing ridiculous. When he heard Yukiatsu claim to have seen Menma, Anaru spoke up and explained, my friend didn't mean to speak badly about Jinta last time. She hoped that Jinta would return to school. But now, he didn't care anymore. Jinta said, what they said doesn't affect my life at all. Suddenly, Anaru slipped. Luckily, Jinta caught her just in time. Anaru looked around, and she realized this was the place where Menma had once fallen. She asked Jinta, do you like Menma? She thought, Jinta must like Menma so much that he can see things normal people can't. If that were true, Anaru hoped he would treat Menma kindly. Since they couldn't find Menma, the group returned. At that moment, Yukiatsu was still grilling meat, which made Popo feel confused. Yukiatsu said, Menma is standing right in front of me, and she told me to do this. He claimed, what the group is doing is to fulfill Menma's wish, but he found it annoying. Hearing that, everyone was shocked. Menma tried to explain that she never said such a thing, but only Jinta could hear Menma's voice. Everyone was about to give up. Suddenly, Jinta took out the box of cookies that Menma had made. He wanted to prove that she was real. However, no one believed Jinta. Yukiatsu even said that Jinta was pathetic, and that he was obsessed with Menma all the time. Then he said goodbye to everyone and walked away. And so, the remaining members of the group gradually dispersed. Jinta felt like he was just a delusional person, but he was also deeply upset, because he saw Yukiatsu playing with Menma's feelings. The next morning, someone came looking for Jinta, so he went to open the door. He was surprised to see that it was Sonoko. She commented on the cookies that Menma had made, but it was unclear whether Sonoko was trying to talk to Jinta, or if she was speaking intentionally for Menma to hear. Sonoko also bluntly said, I don't believe Menma was the one who made those cookies, but she came here because she wanted to ask Jinta for a favor. Somewhere else, Anaru was out drinking with some friends. She happened to spot Jinta. Suddenly, when she saw Sonoko walking with Jinta, it made her curious, so Anaru quickly followed them. Anaru came up to Sonoko and asked what was going on, but Sonoko only gave a mysterious response, which left Anaru even more confused. At that moment, Jinta was waiting outside. Suddenly, he saw Yukiatsu jogging past. Jinta brought up the topic of Menma, and he wanted Yukiatsu to come to the base and meet everyone. However, Yukiatsu seemed annoyed. He told Jinta not to order him around, because Jinta was no longer the leader of the group. Anaru didn't understand what was going on, but Sonoko said, I think Jinta is handling things just fine. When Yukiatsu got home, he was still angry about what Jinta had said. Meanwhile, the group had gathered at the old base. Suddenly, Popo came running in with Menma on his back. He said he had just seen her. The whole group immediately ran outside to check. Sonoko also seemed to have noticed something. Suddenly, they saw a white figure dash by. So they chased after it. At that moment, the group lost sight of it. Then Sonoko shouted Yukiatsu's name loudly. He realized he had been discovered. So Yukiatsu ran away. Everyone realized there was no Menma, because what they saw was just Yukiatsu in disguise. Jinta walked down and asked why he did it. Suddenly, Yukiatsu grabbed Jinta's hand, and he pushed Jinta to the ground. Yukiatsu felt deeply regretful. He said, "If I hadn't said those hurtful things that day, maybe Menma wouldn't have died. Now, she's no longer here for him to apologize to." But Jinta replied, "Menma is still here." Yukiatsu thought Jinta was joking. But when Jinta mentioned the hair clip that Yukiatsu had given to Menma, he fell silent. After that, Yukiatsu suddenly walked away. Popo turned to Sonoko and asked, "You knew everything, didn't you?" Sonoko nodded. She said, "There was a time I saw Yukiatsu buying a white dress and a ribbon." From that moment, Sonoko understood everything. When Yukiatsu got home, he looked at the hair clip. He remembered the words that Jinta had said. After Jinta walked away, Menma ran after him. Seeing that, Yukiatsu also chased after Menma. He said, "You're not as bad as what Jinta said." Then Yukiatsu took out the hair clip and confessed his feelings to Menma. Menma was very surprised, but she avoided him, and Menma continued chasing after Jinta. Yukiatsu threw the hair clip on the ground and ran off. But that very hair clip ended up in Sonoko's hands. Back to Jinta's side. At this moment, Menma wanted him to fulfill her wish. But he didn't seem to care much. Jinta said, "I have a lot of things to do, so I don't want to bother with Menma's stuff." But who would have thought, this guy? He spent all day just eating, sleeping, and playing games. What important things could Jinta possibly have to do the next day? Yukiatsu and Saruko were waiting for a train. They happened to see Inaru going somewhere. The two of them noticed something strange about her. So Yukiatsu decided to follow her. Inaru was hanging out with a group of friends. Suddenly, one of the guys invited her out. She couldn't refuse. So Inaru agreed to go with him. But he ended up taking her to a hotel. That guy thought Inaru was a prostitute. When Inaru heard those words, she was absolutely terrified. At that moment, Yukiatsu appeared and saved her. The two of them left that place together. On the way home, Yukiatsu tried to confess his feelings to Inaru. He wanted her to be his girlfriend. But Inaru avoided the question. Because she knew, she still liked Jinta. She didn't seem excited about it. So Inaru just said, "I'm not sure if I like Jinta or not." But deep down, she knew she cared about him. Ever since his mother and Menma passed away, Jinta had become very distant. Inaru used to be cheerful, because they went to the same school. But Jinta still couldn't forget Menma. On Jinta's side, Popo was having dinner at Jinta's house. He had been thinking a lot. Popo believed that Menma really existed. But he also thought it wasn't a good thing. Because if Menma was still here, he felt she hadn't been able to move on. Popo had searched everywhere, and he wanted to help Menma fulfill her wish. But Menma suddenly burst into tears. All she wanted was to be with everyone. She didn't even know what her wish or passing on meant. Seeing that, Jinta told Popo. He advised him to stop and let Menma rest in peace. But Jinta himself didn't understand why Menma had appeared before him. He thought, maybe Menma's wish is just to see me go back to school. The next day, Jinta packed his things to go to school. Menma looked worried about him, but he reassured her, saying, "I'm fine, so don't worry." When he arrived at class, Jinta felt relieved, because no one seemed to notice him. Meanwhile, Inaru had become the center of gossip. People had heard a rumor that she went to a hotel with a man. The news was spreading all over the school. Even during class, the whispers didn't stop. Jinta glanced over at Inaru. He saw her sitting with her head down, looking sad. So Jinta suddenly stood up and spoke loudly. He wanted to get the whole class's attention. Jinta said he knew everyone was talking about Inaru, but he believed she would never do something like that. Then Jinta started sharing memories from when they were kids, which made Inaru blush from embarrassment. Then the two of them held hands and walked out of the classroom, leaving everyone stunned and speechless. Inaru remembered Jinta's honest words, and it made her smile. But she also sincerely thanked him, because he had helped her. Jinta advised her to go home, but Inaru didn't want to. She knew the rumor had already reached her mother's ears, so she decided not to return home. After that, Anaru went to the secret base and stayed there for a while. A little later, Papo arrived too. He invited everyone to visit Menma's house. Papo thought, maybe we can find a clue about Menma's wish there. But Yukiatsu and Saruko had to study for exams, so only the remaining three went. When they arrived, Menma's mother was happy to see them again. The three of them then went in to offer incense to Menma. Jinta suddenly noticed the look in Menma's mother's eyes. He felt like there was something unusual about it. Meanwhile, Saruko was asked by a girl to give Yukiatsu a love letter. But she refused. That made the two girls very angry. However, when they saw Yukiatsu appear, they had no choice but to leave. Yukiatsu thanked Saruko, because she had helped him avoid trouble with those girls. Yukiatsu also said, I want to be more honest with my feelings. And I won't run away from myself anymore. But when he thought about Jinta, Yukiatsu began to feel uncomfortable. He felt that he was superior to Jinta in many ways. Yet Jinta was always the one who kept the whole group connected, back when they were kids. If Jinta hadn't called everyone to gather at the base, maybe Menma wouldn't have died. But Saruko remembered, it was actually Menma who invited everyone that day. Not Jinta. She felt like maybe Menma had something really important she wanted to say at that moment. As Jinta's group was about to leave, Menma's mother handed them her diary. Anaru also decided to return home for a while, so everyone parted ways there. When Jinta got home, he told Menma that he had visited her house. But Menma wasn't happy about it at all. She asked why Jinta would do such a thing. Menma knew that it only made her mother feel sad. She didn't want to bring back painful memories for her. Hearing that, Jinta told her not to lie. He knew Menma was actually happy to be remembered by her mom. Menma always thought of others more than herself, and that made Jinta feel frustrated. Suddenly, he had a nosebleed. Menma panicked when she saw it. She quickly grabbed some tissue to wipe it for Jinta. The two of them accidentally fell to the floor. Jinta felt embarrassed. He quickly got up and ran outside. After that, he went to the secret base to find Papo. But Jinta was surprised to see that Anaru was already there. Anaru said she wasn't ready to go home yet, so she decided to stay there for a few days. A little later, Papo arrived too. The three of them opened Menma's diary to search for clues, but it was filled with memories of their fun times together. There was one time they all visited Jinta's mom in the hospital. They saw her health was getting worse, so Menma asked everyone to write letters to the gods. Suddenly, the group came up with the idea of making fireworks. They wanted to send their letters to the gods through them. However, they did it the wrong way, so the whole plan ended in failure. Papo thought, maybe that was Menma's true wish. Back home, Jinta cooked noodles for Menma. It was his way of apologizing for what happened the day before. Jinta also said, tomorrow I'll go to school, so you don't need to follow me. Menma looked a little suspicious, but in the end, she nodded and agreed. The next morning, Jinta secretly sneaked away from Menma to meet the others at the secret base. The whole group decided to make fireworks. They wanted to fulfill Menma's wish. However, since they weren't 18 yet, they weren't allowed to use explosives. At that moment, Anaru took out an old firework design, one they had drawn when they were kids. But looking at it again, everyone realized it looked like a childish drawing. That night, everyone slowly went home. Before leaving, Yukiatsu asked Jinta, why haven't you asked Menma what her wish really is? Hearing that, Jinta replied, I'm afraid to ask her. Then he quietly turned and walked away. When he got home, Jinta asked his father for help finding someone to make fireworks. His father said he knew a person who could do it, but the cost was very high, so Jinta couldn't ask for it right away. That's why Jinta decided to get a part-time job. He and Anaru worked together to save up enough money. This made Menma begin to feel suspicious. She started to feel something was off. At night, Jinta came home late, while in the morning, he left very early. She was certain that Jinta was hiding something from her. Just then, the doorbell rang. Jinta's father opened the door and spoke with a guest. Menma happened to overhear the conversation, and found out that Jinta wasn't going to school, he was working a part-time job. Immediately, she rushed to the secret base. There, Menma saw Anaru talking on the phone with Papo. She accidentally overheard that everyone was saving money to make fireworks. They wanted to fulfill her wish. That night, Jinta went to the construction site to work with Papo. While Menma stood outside, she quietly watched Jinta working so hard. When they got home, Menma baked something for Jinta, but this time felt different. Jinta took a bite. He thought it tasted really good this time. It reminded him of the cakes his mom used to make. Menma smiled. She said, "I'm really happy to see Jinta so full of life." The next day, the three of them went to ask the same uncle for help again. They wanted him to help them make fireworks. But he refused, because the festival organizer didn't want him to help students. Surprisingly, the organizer was actually Menma's father. The whole group couldn't understand why he was against it, so they decided to visit Menma's mother to ask for help. Jinta was nervous. He didn't know if Menma would be upset with him. Jinta felt uneasy about showing up at her house unannounced. Papo got straight to the point. He asked her to help them launch the fireworks. But Menma's mother suddenly changed her attitude. She coldly said, "Maybe Menma is feeling very jealous of you all. Because Menma is no longer here. While you're all still here playing around." She asked, "How could you all grow up, while my daughter couldn't?" Just then, Menma's younger brother came home. The group quietly left afterward. Yukiatsu was the first to speak up. He said maybe they should stop doing this. Yukiatsu believed they were all just forcing it. It was all because of what Jinta said. Yukiatsu added, "I used to be like that too. But if no one else wants to say it, then I'll say it all today. I don't want everyone to become another Jinta." He was always haunted by Menma, and Jinta kept hurting others. But Papo still chose to believe in Jinta. Meanwhile, Jinta said, "You all don't need to do this anymore." He would fulfill Menma's wish on his own. Jinta said, "No matter how hard we try to make things the way they used to be, I think the thing we called USA no longer exists." And so, Jinta quietly walked away. In the days that followed, Jinta continued working his part-time job as usual. Anaru started getting worried, because Jinta was getting thinner and more exhausted. One day, Jinta suddenly collapsed while working. He woke up in the break room of Anaru's store. She told him he should stop, but Jinta refused to listen. Seeing this, Anaru burst into tears and clung to Jinta. Through her sobs, she said, "I shouldn't have said those things that day. When you said you didn't like Menma, it made me really happy. But when you left, I realized you were lying to yourself." Anaru confessed, "I like you, Jinta, but I didn't stop you from leaving. And even now, I still can't hold you back." The next day, Jinta visited his mother's grave with his father. At first, he thought his dad had given up on him, since he dropped out of school and his father said nothing about it. But then Jinta realized, after the deaths of his mother and Menma, his father was just silently worrying about his son. Meanwhile, Menma, because she couldn't find Jinta, she went all over the city searching for him. Suddenly, she arrived at the place where Jinta was working. There, Menma overheard Papo saying, "Jinta's trying to fulfill her wish, and he's completely exhausted because of it." Elsewhere, Yukiatsu got a phone call from Sonoko. She thought it was strange. The call came from Jinta's house. But no one on the other end said a word. All she could hear was the sound of the wind. Right at that moment, Yukiatsu's house phone started ringing again, which completely took him by surprise. As for Jinta, after that day, Anaru no longer came to work. By chance, he ran into Menma's younger brother. The boy said that his family had changed a lot since Menma passed away. Especially Menma's mother. She no longer left the house, and she would just sit in front of Menma's altar. The boy felt ashamed, because he had a mother like that. As for Menma, he didn't remember much about her. But there was one thing he could never forget: the last time Menma went out. She told her little brother to protect their home. Now, he didn't even know what he was protecting it for anymore. A while later, Jinta went to the secret base to return Anaru's handkerchief. But when he stepped inside, Jinta was surprised to see everyone already there. Yukiatsu immediately asked, "Why did you call me earlier? What was your intention?" Jinta still didn't understand what was going on. Yukiatsu continued, "You say it's for Menma, but you're the one behind all this, aren't you?" Then he grabbed Jinta by the collar. Everyone rushed in to break it up. Right at that moment, a strong gust of wind suddenly blew into the room. And that was Menma, but only Jinta could see her. Yukiatsu couldn't take it anymore. He begged Jinta to stop all of this. Right at that moment, Menma's diary fell to the ground. Papo was completely shocked when he saw the handwriting inside. Menma wrote that she was so happy to see everyone again. However, she didn't want everyone to be arguing like this because of her. Now, the group finally started to believe Jinta's words. They believed that Menma truly existed. After that, they all went back to Jinta's house. Menma was in the kitchen, baking sweets for everyone, but when they witnessed that strange scene, everyone was completely shocked. Yukiatsu wanted to know how she felt about him. Menma tried writing it down on paper, but she couldn't make the words appear anymore. Meanwhile, Jinta was still able to write normally. On the way home, Anaru felt a great sense of relief. She believed that Menma had forgiven them, but Saruko didn't think so. She said, "The fact that Menma is still here might be proof that she hasn't forgiven us yet." From the beginning, Jinta had suggested using a spirit board to prove Menma's existence. But Yukiatsu believed that Jinta just wanted to keep Menma all to himself and didn't want to share her with the rest of them. Yukiatsu said they should keep the savings money and help Menma pass on as soon as possible. The next day, the three of them went to ask the fireworks guy again, but they were still turned down. Meanwhile, Yukiatsu and Saruko went to see Menma's father to ask for his help. But actually, it was Menma's mother's idea. After Menma died, she had lived stuck in the past. That's why he didn't want to bring up old memories. He hoped his wife could return to a normal life. Suddenly, Yukiatsu got down on his knees. He confessed that he had truly loved Menma. He had lived in the past for a very long time. So now, Yukiatsu wanted to do something to help Menma. Saruko didn't expect Yukiatsu to go that far. Just like before, he was still willing to do anything for Menma. She asked Yukiatsu, "Do you really want Menma to move on?" At that exact moment, Jinta appeared along with Menma. When he found out that Menma was here, Yukiatsu asked what she looked like now. Jinta replied, "She's taller than before, and she looks really cute now." As the two of them walked away, Yukiatsu grew frustrated, and he kicked the fence hard. In the end, Menma's father agreed. He would help them make the fireworks. But since they couldn't handle explosives themselves, he asked someone else to help them. Even though she couldn't see Menma, Anaru could still feel the feelings Jinta had for her. Suddenly, Anaru left. She said she was going to buy a drink, but she walked away crying. Seeing this, Yukiatsu followed her. He said he also wanted to leave. Yukiatsu admitted he was feeling upset. He accepted that Menma existed, but he couldn't accept that only Jinta could see her. Meanwhile, Saruko also went to look for them. Suddenly, she saw Yukiatsu confessing to Anaru, which made her feel upset inside. That evening, Jinta had just returned from his part-time job when he suddenly realized Menma was nowhere to be found. So Jinta ran around everywhere looking for her. He thought about going to the secret base to find Menma. Suddenly, he saw her under the bridge. That sight reminded him of Menma's death, so he ran down to her. Jinta truly didn't want Menma to disappear. He always wanted her to stay by his side, but because he ran too fast, Jinta slipped and fell. Seeing that, Menma rushed over and hugged Jinta. She was worried about him. And then, Menma broke down in tears. She was sad that Jinta always cared about her, while never thinking about himself. At that moment, she said she had seen something interesting. But when Menma walked closer to the riverbank, Jinta suddenly shouted and stopped her. He didn't want to see the past repeat itself. So Jinta ran up and hugged Menma, and he confessed his feelings to her. The next day, she started to feel her body beginning to fade away. Anaru had returned home. She called Yukiatsu, and they discussed whether they should attend Menma's farewell party. Suddenly, Yukiatsu saw Saruko. She was being dragged away by a group of girls who were questioning her. Saruko ended up revealing everything about Yukiatsu. She even accused him of being a cross-dresser. Then, Saruko stormed off in anger. Yukiatsu chased after her, but when he realized that Saruko was crying, he let go of her hand. Somewhere else, Jinta, Menma, and Papo were preparing for the farewell party. They even sent invitations to Menma's parents. They wanted Menma's family to attend the fireworks. Meanwhile, Menma's mother thought the kids were just playing around, but Menma's younger brother suddenly said that he would go. He asked his mother, "Do you even know how much I've grown all this time? You've never paid any attention to me." The boy spoke with a voice full of pain. He said that he had grown a lot since then. Hearing that, Menma's mother was heartbroken. Suddenly, Menma's father stepped in. He comforted his wife. He said that because they were a family, she didn't have to bear everything alone. At that moment, Yukiatsu was talking with Anaru. She felt like a fool. Anaru once thought that if Menma were gone, maybe Jinta would start noticing her. But back then, the distance between them only grew wider. She couldn't even talk to him like she used to. Now, they had become a bit closer. But she knew very well. It was all thanks to Menma appearing again. Just then, Saruko called. She said that Yukiatsu was a coward. While he kept saying he wanted Menma to pass on, deep down, he was afraid to face it. Not just Yukiatsu, but Saruko was the same. She still remembered clearly the real reason why Menma had gathered everyone at the secret base. It was because she wanted to do something for Jinta. And with that, Saruko hung up. Afterward, Yukiatsu asked Anaru to help him with something. That evening, everyone gathered at the secret base. Poppo acted as the host. He invited Menma to give her farewell speech. Menma thanked everyone for everything. She said that tomorrow, she would go to heaven. And Menma wanted everyone to be her friends until the very last moment. After that speech, the atmosphere suddenly grew quiet and heavy. Yukiatsu stood up. He suggested that everyone reenact what happened that day. Anaru then asked Jinta, "Do you like Menma?" Jinta was completely shocked, and he immediately denied it. But Poppo and the others joined in, pressuring him to answer. With no way out, Jinta finally confessed, "I really like Menma." But just as he said it, Jinta turned and tried to run outside. Poppo called out after him. Jinta looked over at Menma and saw that she was crying, not smiling like before. After that, Anaru quietly walked home with Saruko. Anaru noticed Saruko still kept her usual cold expression. Anaru said, "You wouldn't understand what it feels like when the person you like never notices you." But in truth, Saruko was the one who understood that feeling best, because she had always liked Yukiatsu. Meanwhile, Jinta was walking home with Menma. Menma said she was really happy when she heard Jinta say he liked her. If she were just an ordinary girl, Menma thought she might have become Jinta's wife someday. Hearing that, Jinta immediately said, "You don't need to go to heaven anymore. Just stay here and live with me." But Menma refused. She wanted to be reincarnated. She wanted to properly talk with everyone again. Somewhere else, Yukiatsu was still haunted by Menma. But even after knowing Jinta's answer, he couldn't do anything to change reality. As for Menma, she dreamed of a childhood memory. Jinta's mother once said that after people die, they get reincarnated. They might become an animal, or maybe some kind of flower. That's why she didn't feel sad when thinking about death. Suddenly, Menma woke up. She could feel her body slowly starting to disappear. After that, everyone set up the platform for the firework launch. At that moment, Saruko appeared. She showed up with a new look. It surprised everyone in the group. Menma's younger brother had also come. That made Menma feel very happy. She immediately rushed over and hugged him tightly. Right now, Jinta's emotions were in turmoil. He wondered if Menma would leave after this. So the whole group worked together to set up the firework launcher. Then Poppo shouted out his thanks to Menma. Now the fireworks had been launched into the sky. They carried everyone's wishes for Menma. But each person's feelings were hard to describe. They wondered if Menma was really going to leave just like that. Suddenly, Jinta heard a voice from behind. When he turned around, he was shocked. Menma was still there. Everyone was surprised, because they thought everything had already ended. But even so, Jinta felt really happy, because Menma was still by his side. After that, everyone slowly left. At that moment, Menma felt so happy watching the fireworks with everyone. A while later, Yukiatsu asked everyone to meet up again. This time, they all confessed something. They admitted that they were doing everything only for their own sake. Anaru said, "I didn't want Menma to be with Jinta. That's why I really wanted Menma to disappear." Even Yukiatsu felt the same. He loved Menma very much. And he was frustrated that only Jinta could see her. He didn't want to leave Menma to Jinta alone. Hearing that, Saruko suddenly said, "That's disgusting." Anaru then asked Saruko, "Then why don't you just tell Yukiatsu how you really feel?" Suddenly, the whole group began arguing again. Anaru accused Saruko of being jealous of Menma, because she was the one Yukiatsu liked. But Saruko denied it. From the very beginning, she had known she didn't stand a chance against Menma. But the one Saruko was truly jealous of was Anaru. Because even if Menma disappeared, she still couldn't compare to Anaru. Saruko recalled, "I was the one who told Menma that everyone would ask Jinta whether he liked her." But at the time, Menma responded with a smile and said, "I love everyone." After hearing that, Saruko realized she had completely lost. She felt disgusted with herself. She once thought that if Menma disappeared, Jinta would end up with Anaru, and she herself would be with Yukiatsu. Even Poppo admitted it, that everything he did was just to atone for his own guilt. Poppo revealed that on that day, he was the one who saw where Menma fell. But because he was too scared, he ran away. Poppo had traveled all over the world, just to try to forget that memory. But no matter how far he went, he could never escape the past. What Poppo truly hoped for now was to see Menma finally move on. At that moment, Menma woke up. She felt her body growing weaker. Menma thought that maybe her time here was almost up. As for Jinta, his feelings weren't so different from the others. But whether Menma passed on or not, it no longer mattered to him. But to Menma, it wasn't like that. She genuinely wanted everyone to be able to see her. Not just Jinta. Hearing that, everyone decided they would help Menma. Jinta then ran to find Menma and bring her back to the base. But the moment he saw her, Jinta panicked. He felt like Menma had no strength left at all. Menma gently said, "I finally remembered the promise from back then, and it was a promise she made to Jinta's mother." His mother knew that after she passed away, Jinta wouldn't cry, because ever since he was a child, he always hid his emotions. Jinta's mother only wished that he could smile, that he could get angry, that he could feel sadness, and that he could cry like a normal person. So Menma promised Jinta's mother that she would make him cry a lot. But she didn't know how to make him cry. That's why she asked everyone to help. But things got out of hand afterward. Menma thought this was her punishment for keeping it a secret from Jinta. Now, Menma had fulfilled that promise. At first, she only wanted to make Jinta cry. But now, she just wanted him to smile a lot. The time for Menma to leave was drawing near. But Jinta didn't want that to happen. Jinta said, "I don't want you to go anywhere," Menma gently replied. "I just want to say goodbye to everyone." Everyone was waiting for her at the secret base. Hearing that, Jinta immediately carried Menma on his back and ran toward the base. But just as they arrived, Jinta could no longer see her. Even though he couldn't see her, Jinta could still hear Menma's voice. Menma had come to accept the truth, that she was about to leave this world. So she lied to Jinta. She said, "We're playing hide and seek. Remember?" Hearing that, Jinta ran everywhere searching for her. The others followed him. Then they all split up to search for Menma. Even though they couldn't see her, they all shouted her name loudly throughout the forest. By now, Menma was slowly fading away. But she truly wanted to say goodbye to everyone properly. Morning was breaking. The whole group gathered at a tree deep in the forest. Suddenly, they found 5 pieces of paper neatly laid on the ground. They were farewell letters. Menma had written for each of them. For Saruko, Menma said she loved her gentleness. For Papo, Menma loved his cheerful and funny personality. Next was Yukiatsu. Menma praised his perseverance and strong will. And for Inaru, Menma said she loved how Inaru always stayed true to herself. Lastly, it was Jinta's letter. Menma wrote, "I love you so much. I once wanted to become your wife." Hearing that, Jinta was at a loss for words. He shouted loudly, "No. Hide and seek isn't over yet, you're not allowed to leave, then." Everyone called out Menma's name together. Suddenly, by some miracle, they could all hear her voice. In that moment, they all saw Menma's figure. And everyone burst into tears. Jinta and the others thanked her for everything. Especially, Jinta thanked Menma, because she had helped him fulfill the promise he made to his mother. In Menma's eyes at that moment, the group looked just like they did in the past. And her heart only wanted to stay a little longer. But Menma still chose to leave. She wanted to be reborn. Menma wished to become friends with everyone once again. Then the group shouted together, "Hide and seek is over now." And that was their final farewell to Menma. Menma slowly faded into the light of dawn. And so, life returned to its normal path. But everyone had changed. They had grown up, become stronger, and everyone was more connected than ever before. Some time had passed since everything happened. Now, Jinta was thinking about Menma. Suddenly, Inaru appeared. Everyone still stayed close to their secret base. They still played hide and seek together. At that moment, Inaru confessed her feelings to Jinta. But he didn't really respond. Jinta was still always thinking about Menma. He thanked Menma for fulfilling his mother's wish. Hearing that made Inaru feel very sad. Because she still felt distant from Jinta. Suddenly, Inaru remembered something. She quickly took out some paper and started writing it down. Jinta was confused and didn't know what was happening. While she was focusing on writing, Jinta and Papo kept bothering her with small talk. So she kicked them both out. That evening, everyone gathered at the secret base. Inaru had written down their prayers for Menma. Together, they burned the letters, sending off their wishes and dreams. They prayed that Menma could have a new life, while they themselves would move forward on a new journey. Right now, Inaru still hasn't been able to confess her feelings to Jinta. In her letter, she wrote her true thoughts to Menma. Inaru liked both of them, so she hoped that Menma would also bless her. In the end, everyone would always remain friends. Because their group was the Super Peace Busters, friends forever. That's the end of today's video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support Oni-chan in future videos. Thank you so much for watching. Much love, always.